So we've come to the 40th chapter, and if we consider where we've come from to reach this chapter, that will give us a sense of the adhikar that we have incurred by reading these 39 chapters. We've come to a point now, we've even been through the Astakalya Lila. We've been through all Sambandha Gyan, creating the direct platform and relationship with Krishna, understanding the nature of Maya and understanding my relationship with both of these, with Krishna and with the material energy. And then we've come through Krishna Tattva, Shakti Tattva, Jiva Tattva, Maya Tattva, Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, this sudden Tattva, sudden Bhakti Tattva. And we've come through Priti Tattva. These are the 10 dasmulas, the 10 ontological foundations of all spiritual conceptions. 9 prameyas and 1 praman, substantiating all these 9 prameyas. Krishna Tattva and Krishna Shakti, and Krishna being that supreme Advaya Gyan, the supreme controller. Then Jiva Tattva, then Vibhinamsa Tattva, then the Jiva is liberated from Maya, then Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, then Sadhan Bhakti, and then Priti. And we've even discussed Raganuga Bhakti prior to coming into this Rasa Tattva section. And we've discussed Vaidhi Bhakti, which is the essential initial ingredient. Vaidhi Bhakti is describing the external part or the external form of the Lord. If we don't understand his external form, how can we expect to understand his internal form? So that Vaidhi Bhakti must be there. We must understand the form, the external personality of the Lord in his tattva, and then enter into the internal activities of that Lord. So there's a process, a beautiful process, and it's so sublime. It's just like, what do you call, there's a term for it, just completely smooth, completely, there's a term for it that we use, can't think of it, but I'll think of it in a minute. Seamless. It's like a seamless process. It just flows from one topic to the next topic, and we hit the Nam Tattva in the center. Why? Because the Nam has to be central to everything. The Nam is central to everything. Without Nam, we won't understand anything. We won't understand the first, second, third, or fourth chapters even, without a platform of Nam, without this. This is our seva, Nam Seva. Mahaprabhu has come in this age to give us this Harinam Bhajan, this Harinam Seva. So without Nam, without the foundation and strength of Nam, we're not going to proceed. We're simply not going to proceed. And if the sadhak becomes genuinely enthusiastic, then that he will drink more of that beverage of Sri Nam as he reads more of the Rasa Tattva section especially. So we've been through these really complex descriptions of the natures and the emotions. 33 Vyabhachari bhavs, they're all there. Arisya, envy, etc. All these different Vyabhachari bhavs. And we've been through the Anubhavs, the Sattvika bhavs, and the Vibhav, what is the cause of this bhakti rising, the Alamban and the Vishaya. And we're mixing them together to make the Samagri, the condensed sweetness and juice of this ras. And we've even, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has blessed us going through this 38th chapter of the Astakalya Lila to very clearly see the 8 praharas of the day, starting with Nishanta Lila, Prata Lila, Purvana Lila, Madhyana Lila, Apurvana Lila, Syam Lila, Pradosh, Ratri, these 8 yamas of the day. So scrolling through all of this, now Vijay Kumar, he's still there's still some ingredient that is missing. So this is going to be discussed in this 40th chapter. But understand what I'm sharing now, what I'm saying now, is an appreciation of where we've come from, where we've gone through. All of us should be able to reflect on these 39 chapters that we've read. Don't just let them go over your heads. I hope many of you have taken notes. We've posted all kinds of notes and so on. Actually, Rasamandri, she's composing like full details of each particular chapter that we've shared on the threads of the different verses, etc., the different diagrams and maps and so on. So everything is there. So we can catch this seamless process, because that's what it is. It's connected so sweetly. There's no blips in it. There's no glitches all the way through, from the very beginning to the very end. There's nothing that's missing. And this Dasamula is like such a thrust of potency in the center, coupled with the powering agent of Nam. And 3 Nam Tattvas, Nam Aparad, Nam Tattva, and Nam Abhas. These 3 Nam chapters, essential. So we have a gift, we have a jewel, we have an absolute amazing treasure house here. So now we'll begin our 40th chapter, and I just feel very fortunate to be back from Radhakund and Puridam to be concluding. My desire was to conclude this here in Godram, because this is where this Jaiva Dharma was conceived and written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur didn't conceive it, it was already in the atmosphere. He channeled it into this medium of this book. So chapter 40, the supreme wealth. This is Sampati Dash. Okay, Prem Sampati Dash. Vijay pondered deeply. Hearing about Braj Leela, a greed has now awakened in my heart for that Leela. This is the point. My Gurudev would emphasize this repeatedly. Unless we have developed some type of greed, some type of enthusiasm, this greed is generated initially through Nam. It's the Nam which is like the generator. It's giving us that incentive, that desire, that hunger to go further. It's taking us beyond the material boundaries, that's why. If we don't take Nam, we'll be stuck in material boundaries. But Nam takes us across the Naimitic, into the Nitya, daily. And daily we're getting an infusion of enthusiasm and this lobe, this greed, this hunger. A greed has now awakened in my heart for that Leela, and thus I will gradually attain the stage of complete success, Sampati Dash. So this Leela, I haven't shared especially much Leela going through it. I've just been reading basically through all the chapters. But all the extra supports, Ujjwala Nilamani, Govinda, Leela Amrita, Krishna Bhavan Amrita, these books need to be appreciated and read in relationship to our path. Otherwise, how? We'll just be depending on our imagination. Rupa Goswami, the Vidagdha Madhav, Lalit Madhav, etc. We discussed on Rupa Goswami's Tirubhav the other day. Without all of these supports for the Leela, then how is that hunger going to manifest? But more important than anything is sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha. Unless we can come in contact with that person who has that greed, we will never get it. My Gurudev always used to say, who is the low B? The low B is the person who has the greed and is giving the greed. There has to be a low B, someone who's giving the greed. If the greed is not being received through the pure medium of our Guru Varg, then how is it going to be strong? How is it going to be without any blemish and pure? It must be coming through this pure line. So we're so blessed, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Gokishore Das Babaji, and Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, my Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Don't ever underestimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, thinking, oh, he didn't speak about these things because that wasn't his mission. His mission was to teach Malechas who didn't even know, I didn't even know the name Krishna before Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada manifested this. So first of all, I had to learn about Krishna and all his glories, like I've just explained previously, that this Vaidhi Marg, this path of Vaidhi Bhakti, has to be very conclusively understood and followed to understand the external Aishwarya aspect, the aura and reverential aspect of the Lord, before the internal aspect can be appreciated. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada gave his life for this. But simultaneously, we can read, and I've shared with you a number of times in Chaitanya Charitamrita in particular, he speaks the whole Brahmara Gita in his purports in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He speaks the whole Mahishi Gita, this Viraha Gita of the Mahishis. And I've suggested to you before in this Adi Lila chapter 3 verse 16. Adi Lila chapter 3 verse 16. You read the commentary of Srila Prabhupada. He's saying conclusively, the more we hear about these topics, the more we can see how Prabhupada is weaving them amongst all of his purports and commentaries. It's all there. He's not presenting Vaidhi Bhakti. That's not Mahaprabhu's aim and object. Rag Mag Bhakti Loke Karite Prachan. He's come to give Raganuga Bhakti. This is why he's come to give. Yes, she just put it on the WhatsApp thread, this verse. But it's the commentary to this verse that has to be appreciated. And I'm just saying that sometimes, for myself also, I was feeling when I came to my Gurudev that, oh, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is not describing these things. But the more I understand this, the more I read the Bhagavatam, the more I read Chaitanya Charitamrita in particular, the more I see just jumping out, all the way through. Ragmarg, 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 Ragmarg. So it's totally absurd, and it's greatly unfortunate that the senior devotees there are not picking that up. Why aren't they picking it up? Because they haven't had sadhu sangha. No other reason. They haven't taken advantage of sadhu sangha. It's just a fact. We can't dispute it. Because if you have sadhu sangha, it's like we have the potential. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhavasya nirna nitya siddhyasya bhavasya. Prakritam, it's potentially there in the heart. Just like fire is within wood. And the fire can never be ignited without another fire touching the wood. It can't. It's just impossible. So the fire of greed, lobha, won't arise according to our different karmas, etc. Whatever our adhikar and karmic fortune is, then we will have the fortune to catch this or not. So we should not expect that most people will be too intimidated by this path, because it takes you right away from your false ego. There's nothing important about going into Rag Marg. It's actually the opposite. You become less than important. When you're on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti and you're banging out the big drum in the world, you're a very important man. You have to be, to attract people. Like Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada used to let the disciples see him like a million suns. They would see like that. They had to see like that. My Gurudev was very different. He was only walking on that path. So try to appreciate the reality of Mahaprabhu. It's all Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami, everything. Okay, so, and thus I will gradually attain the stage of complete success, Sampati Dash. He therefore concluded that he must know about the nature of this gradual development. Who is he going to know from? Gopal Guru. Thinking thus, he approached Sri Guru Goswami and humbly inquired, Prabhu, I need to know the various stages that a bhakta undergoes, beginning from the stage of hearing to the stage of Sampati Dasha, complete success. Goswami, altogether there are 5 stages: Shravan Dasha, the stage of hearing; Varna Dasha, the stage of accepting, Smarna Dasha, the stage of remembrance, Bhavapana Dasha, the stage of spiritual ecstasy, and Prem Sampati Dasha, the state of attaining the highest success of Prem. It's a process. We just said before, like a seamless process is rolling through. So these 5 stages need to be appreciated. This is the last instruction, basically, that Vijay is going to hear. He's already heard his Ekadash Bhavs. He's already heard so many other instructions. Now this one. Vijay, kindly explain Shravan Dasha. Goswami, when the jiva develops ruchi for hearing Krishna Lila Katha, it should be understood that his state of aversion has been removed. Do we like to hear Hari Katha? Do we like to hear Krishna Lila Hari Katha? Is that, we can gauge ourselves. At that time, an intense hankering to hear Krishna Katha awakens in him, and he has to hear transcendental Krishna Katha from the lips of a bhakta who is much more advanced than he is. What's that? Swajatiya Snigdha Ashraya. This is the type of association we want. Svajatiya, someone who is focusing on the same goal as we are. Jat, we're the same group. Svajatiya. You've understood Mahaprabhu came to give Manjari Bhav. If this is our desire, then we need to be with people who desire that. So this Svajatiya Snigdha, they must be affectionate. We must have an affectionate relationship. This is the ingredient for sadhu sangha. And ashraya, what he's saying here, we must feel that they are senior, that they are more advanced than us on this path. Then that relationship will be most beneficial for our development. So we must seek that. We must pray. It's Krishna's job to provide that sadhu sangha, but it's our independence to take it up or not take it up. It's always up to us. Everything that happens in this world is up to us. Any fortune or misfortune is because of our karma. We're so quick to blame Krishna. Oh, why did Krishna make it like that? Why did Krishna make it like that? But Krishna doesn't do anything. He just plays in the forest all day. But I'm the one who's creating all these karmas by my actions. That's the reason all negative things happen, or even good things, sukarma, takes place. It's all by my activities, my independent activities. Krishna just wants us to come to our real identity of this Nitya Prem Seva, just to serve him eternally in our eternal forms. That's all Krishna wants. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 4:29-40, Tasman Mahan Mukarita Madhubrikcharita Piyusha Shesha Sarita Pritaha Sravanti Taye Pavantya Vitrusho Nipagada Karnas Tannas Prishyanti Asantrit Bayashoga Moha. In assemblies of saintly people, unlimited rivers of pure nectar emanate from the mouths of great souls in the form of descriptions of the transcendental character, pastimes, and qualities of Sri Krishna. This is from the Kapila Devahuti Samvad. Those who are never satiated when they drink these nectarian glories through their ears with rapt attention can never be subjected to hunger, thirst, fear, grief, delusion, and other anarthas. That's all. This is the antidote to any type of difficulty at all. Just hearing Lila Katha, hearing qualified Hari Katha, according to Shastra, by a qualified person. And we know who is qualified and who is not qualified. Jiva Goswami describes that the mind will understand, and then the heart will feel, and the soul will celebrate. So these 3 stages: understanding, feeling, and celebrating. We go through the gross, the subtle, and the spirit. It's an indication. It's bang, bang, bang. You know. And another trick that I've learned from listening to different speakers and so on is that if I wake up in the morning and I'm still resonating with the potency of those leelas, then I feel, yes, this is someone bona fide. But if they've just dissipated and gone, it's almost like gyan, because there are many gyanis on the circuit, and they can speak so many elaborate descriptions and so on. But if their own personal strength and mood and nishta and guru nishta is not there, then those leelas can't penetrate the heart. My Gurudev once explained, we were asking him about a particular devotee, and he said, does he have guru nishta? If his guru nishta is not strong, then what will you get from him? What can you get? That strength of guru nishta means I'm connected to the Guru Varg. I'm connected to Rupa Goswami. I'm connected to Sanatan Goswami. I'm connected to Krishnadas Kaviraj. I'm connected to Bhakti Vinod Thakur. This connection, it's practically a physical, like an electric current connection. You put the plug in and you get connected. We have to be connected. So we have to pray for that type of association. And we must have that association. That's Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravana, Mathura Vas, Sri Murti Sevaya. These 5 principal angas of, when it's boiled down out of all the 64 angas, these 5 are left. Sadhu Sangha, Nam Kirtan, Bhagavat Shravanam, Mathura Vas. Mathura Vas means living in the holy Dham, and Sri Murtaya Sevaya, worshipping Thakurji. It's a process. It's actually a very simple process it's there for us if we realize the urgency. That urgency is part of the utsaha, the greed. Vijay. Those who are averse, Bahir Mukdash, also occasionally hear Harikatha. What kind of Shravan is that? Goswami. There is a vast difference between the Shravan of Krishna Katha in the state of aversion, Bahir Mukdash, and Shravan in the state of being favorably disposed, Antar Mukdash. The Shravan of those who are Bahir Muk takes place by chance, and not because of their Shraddha. Such Shravan gives rise to spiritual fortune that leads towards Bhakti, Bhakti Unmuk, Sukriti. And when this has accumulated over many lifetimes, it gives rise to transcendental Shraddha. In the stage that this transcendental Shraddha is awakened in the heart, Shravan of the Harikatha from the lips of saintly personalities is called Shravan Dasha. So it's talking about lifetimes of getting this very genuine, real taste for hearing about the beautiful qualities and form of the Lord of Krishna. There are 2 types of Shravan Dasha. The first is unmethodical or irregular, hearing Kram Hina Shravan Dasha. And the second is hearing methodically in a regular order, Kram Sudha Shravana Dasha. So 2 types of hearing. Vijay, what is Kram Hina Shravana Dasha, irregular hearing? Goswami, Kram Hina Shravana Dasha is hearing about Krishna Lila in an irregular and unmethodical manner. Hearing Krishna Lila with irresolute intelligence results in this sort of unmethodical Shravan, because such hearing does not enable one to realize the relationship between the various Leelas, and thus Ras does not awaken in the heart. It's got to be, what's that? Savai Pumsam Parodama Yanta Bhakti Rose. Ahoitiki Apratihata. Without break. Like this Anyavilasita Shunyam Gyana Karmadhyana Vidam. Anyakulena, with unbroken, like a flow of oil, to such success, it has to become a matter of life and death. We have to give it that much importance, that much credence, if we want this to reveal its highest fortune in the heart. It has to come to that stage. And taking larger quantities of Nam is definitely going to increase that, without a doubt. Mahaprabhu, he not only gave us the teachings of Rupa Goswami, he also gave us the very simple method to absorb and taste those principles and truths. This Nam Bhajan. Nam must be there. 16 rounds is like for infants, really and truly. It really is. It's the first stage, and it's very wonderful. But if we want to remain in that first stage, that's okay. But if we want to actually become a respected or a respectful sadhak, then we should at least be taking 32. 16 is like I'm treading water, basically. I'm just staying out of Maya. 32, I'm actually starting to find that I know how to swim. It's becoming more of a reality. 48, and then things are really starting to move. Internally, I'm starting to feel, yes, I really am a serious devotee. We think that subconsciously. That helps us, it supports us. What to speak of when we go to a lakh, 64 rounds. This is what originally Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada wanted us all to do. He asked, he requested in that matchless gift place in New York. He wanted everyone to do like that. But he realized that they weren't able to actually do that. So they were at such a infant stage, so he gave them infant medication. But we've heard now so many chapters from Jaiva Dharma. Surely our stage is going to increase from 16. It must, if we want to genuinely wake this up. Because if we don't, we'll be on this Kram Hina Shravan Dasha. Everything will just be sporadically, unmethodical. Vijay, please explain about Kram Shuddha Shravana Dasha, systematic hearing. Goswami, rasa only awakens in one's heart when Krishna Lila is heard methodically or in a regular order with resolute intelligence. I can't stress it enough, but this resolute intelligence, regular order, all this comes about from our regulated absorption in Nam daily. It's the Nam that is going to give us the strength. Don't neglect it. If you neglect it in your younger years, you're not going to be able to pick it up in your older years. It's going to be very difficult to do. It needs to be practiced. At any stage, it needs to be practiced. It is a practice. I was once trying to coach a very older devotee to chant more, and it was just impossible for him. He just had not been habituated to it. So his mind kept galloping away all the time. It's a training process. We need to cultivate it if we want to be successful in it. That's our choice too. Everything's our choice. Krishna's not going to make it magically happen. We're going to have to desire it to happen, to make it happen. Or in a regular order with resolute intelligence. When one hears the Astakali Nitya Lila, eternal eightfold pastimes, separately from the Naimitic Leelas, occasional Leelas, such as Krishna's divine birth and so on. Yes, all his birth and so on. These are all Naimitic Leelas. Very beautiful Leelas, of course they're beautiful. But they're Naimitic, they're temporary. The only Nitya Leelas are the Leelas that were described in the Astakaliya presentation in that 38th chapter. Those eightfold pastimes of the day. It's always our choice. Then his Shravan, then his Shravan is Kram Shuddha. Only this Kram Shuddha Shravan is desirable on the path of bhajan. If one hears Krishna Lila in the Kram Shuddha manner, the sweetness and charm of the Leela is gradually conceived, and the inclination to perform Raganuga Bhajan appears in the heart of the listener. At that time he thinks within himself, "Aho, Subal has such a wonderful Sakya Bhav for Krishna. I will also render loving savor to Krishna like him in Sakya Ras." This type of strong affinity is called lobh, greed. The performance of Krishna Bhajan with such lobh following the sweet bhavs of the Brajbasis is called Raganuga Bhakti. So when I'm reading this, I'm just thinking about Rupa Goswami and his Upadeshamrita. He gives us in the beginning how to control the senses, Vachrovegam, Manasakrodvegam. Then he goes into the more subtle senses, Atyahara Prayasyascha Prajalpanyamagraha. And then he goes Utsaha Nischayat, this enthusiasm in the third verse. So this is also a seamless process to arrive at the consciousness of enthusiastic practice. The performance of Krishna Bhajan with such lobh, following the sweet bhavs of the Brijbasis, is called Raganuga Bhakti. Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtano Smitya Kramana Rasana Misidyoja Tishtem Braje Tanu Ragi Janugami, following the residents of Vrindavan. That's the Rag Atmikas. A Raganuga is following the Rag Atmikas. Their Atma is pure. Their Atma has been is manifest in that they are Kaya Vyuha from Sri Radhika. We are following them, the Ragatmikas. We are Raganugas, and we're Rupanugas at the same time. Because you have heard about the Braja Gopis, oh, I missed something. I have given the example of Sakya Ras, but this type of Raganuga Bhakti is also performed in all the four rasas, beginning with Dasya, the same mood, in all the four Dasya, in all the four rasas. By the grace of my Praneshwara Sri Nimananda, you have a natural disposition for Sringara Ras. The actual Ras is not, Madhurya is a general word for the sweetness of all of Vrindavan. But when we become specific about the Krishna's Leela, like the Rasa Leela, for example, the Madhyana Leela, these Leelas, the Shanta Leela, the Ratri Leela, when we become specific, we call it Sringara Ras. This is the most beautiful, sweetest Ras. You have a natural disposition for Sringara Ras, because you have heard about the Braj Gopis' exceptional bhavs and seva attitude towards Krishna. The greed to render Premamayi seva to Krishna like them has appeared in your heart, and that very greed has bestowed upon you the path to obtain such aprakat seva. That's seva in the spiritual world. He has a greed for that. In reality, the only Shravan Dasha of this process is the confidential conversation between guru and disciple. This is what I said from the very beginning, this association, guru and disciple. If we're accepting, we can accept many shikshas, and if we're accepting the guidance of a shiksha into this world of Braj, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, in reality, the only Shravan Dasha, the only real hearing process, are the confidential conversations between guru and disciple. It's when the disciple is asking these confidential questions about Braj. He's hungry to know, and at that time, guru can impart these profound truths directly into the heart. You can't get them from reading. You can hear about them and pick up the desire to meet someone who has understood these things, and then you have to actually meet that person who is realized in these truths. And if that is our fervent prayer, Krishna will arrange very quickly. Vijay, when is one's Shravan Dasha considered completed? Goswami, one's Shravan Dasha is completed when one realizes the eternality of Krishna's Leela. Since Krishna, it's eternal. Since Krishna's Leela is supremely pure and transcendental, it completely captivates the mind and heart. One is then afflicted with acute impatience to enter into it and participate in it. Sri Gurudev describes to the Shishya the Ekadash Bhavs that I mentioned previously. Shravandasha should only be considered completed or perfected when the disciple's disposition of mind is imbued with the loveliness of the Leela. At that time, the disciple is afflicted with intense eagerness and attains Varnadasha, the stage of acceptance. So, I'm thinking I might just leave it here today. It's a bit earlier, but I'd rather just sit with that Shravana Dasha to understand that. If we gallop so quickly, then we're going to be left with too much information, so to speak, to grasp. This Shravana Dasha is essential. Tomorrow we'll discuss this Varna Dasha, and we'll go further along on this. Okay, yes, I'll stop now. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. The process of Raganuga Bhakti is now really being encapsulated and summarized very clearly. These 5 stages we should write down and commit to. This Shravandas, Varnadasha, and Smaranadasa, the stage of remembrance. When one is hearing, then one can remember. This is the process. And from remembrance, then Bhavapana, the stage of ecstasy, will actually manifest. And then from there, the highest stage of Prem Sampati Dash will manifest. So this is the Kram, it's called, Krama, the process, the gradual process. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. So yesterday we began to discuss these 5 stages, this leading to Sampati Dash, this Shravan Das, and today we're going to discuss Varna Dasha, Smarna Dasha, and Bhavapana Dasha, and Sampati, Prem Sampati Dash. So these stages, Vijay is inquiring how to go further. And we discussed yesterday that the principal quality of this path is utsaha, greed. Without this lobe, without this greed, nothing will transpire at all. So on page 816, Vijay, please, Prabhu, please tell me about Varna Dasha. Varna Dasha. Goswami, when the spontaneous, this is a very high stage. These are very high stages that we're discussing. This is the final chapter. They're very elevated stages. When the spontaneous attachment of the heart is bound in the lila by the shackles of the Ekadash Bhavs, which we've already been through, the age, dress, service, etc., that I mentioned previously, the disciple becomes overwhelmed and falls at Gurudev's lotus feet, weeping constantly. At that time, Gurudev becomes manifest in the form of a Sakhi, and the disciple as her attendant. So this is what I'm saying. It's a very high stage when you can come to this place of seeing your Guru as a Sakhi. In the conversations with the ISKCON Gurus in 91, they were asking who should they worship, and their particular adhikar at that time, my Gurudev was explaining, you worship Prabhupada as you knew him here. You worship his form here. You don't see the Sakhi form in your Guru, so you worship, because they were trying to, they didn't ask directly what was Prabhupada's Sakhi form, but they were kind of inferring that, how to see. And my Gurudev answered, you worship him exactly as you saw him here. And they say, well, he was in an elderly body, but that's It's timeless, his body. So this is his answer to that question at that time. So at that time, Gurudev becomes manifest in the form of a Saki and the disciple as her attendant, because those devotees had not been practicing so long. They hadn't been guided fully into that Rasik world, so therefore they needed more work. The essential characteristic of the Braja Gopis is that they are extremely eager to render loving service to Sri Krishna. Gurudev is a Braja Lalana who has reached the perfectional stage of this seva. At that time, the disciple humbly prays to Sri Gurudev with the following heartfelt sentiments. Tvam natva yachate dritva trinam dante ayam janaha svadusyamrita sakena jivyayumum sudukitam na muchchech charana yatam api dustam dayamaya ato radikale haha muchainam naiva tadrisham. This is from the Premamboja Markandeya Stavyaraj, 11 and 12. O Radhalike, I am very degraded, holding a blade of grass between my teeth and falling at your lotus feet with all possible humility. So this is the mood of the disciple for the Guru also. This is the example he's given. I pray that you will kindly shower your grace upon this destitute soul and enliven me by bestowing the nectar of service under your direction and guidance. Those who are celebrated as kind and merciful do not reject even wicked people who accept their shelter and surrender unto them. This is their very nature. Therefore, please be kind to this wicked person who has surrendered unto you. Please do not deprive me of your causeless grace. I am longing so intensely for the loving service of the divine couple of Braj under the shelter of your lotus feet. So all the stages are within this verse also. Sharanagat, Nishta, faith, all the way through that we've already described. So this is a very powerful solicitation to Guru. This is the typical bhav of Varnadash. In this stage, the Guru Rup Saki gives the sadhak the order, agyan, to engage in Astakalya Lila Smaranam by taking complete shelter of Krishna Nam while residing in Braj, and assures him that his heartfelt cherished longing will be fulfilled very soon. So this is Varnadasha. Vijay, please tell me about Smaranadasha. These stages will be opened out further in the heart as we progress ourselves. We will read other descriptions of these stages, and gradually, we will absorb the deepest meanings of these stages. Vijay, please tell me about Smaranadasha. Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Krishna smaram janam kasya prishtam nija samihitam tat katar tashkoso kuryadvasham braje sada seva sadak rupena siddharupena chatrahi tadbhav lipsuna karya brajalokanashrata shravano kirtanandani vidha bhakti utadani tu Yanyangani Chatanyatra Vignayani Manishibi. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 294, 296. The sadhak should constantly remember Sri Krishna along with his beloved eternal associates. He should absorb himself in chanting and hearing their glorious pastimes, and he should always reside in Braj. These are always it's the same as Tannamarupa Charitadi, the same instruction, guidance. Those who have developed greed for Ragatmika Bhakti will render service following the residence of Braj internally by Siddha Rup and externally in their Sadhak Rup. Those who are well versed in transcendental knowledge, Tattvavid, know full well that all the various limbs of bhakti, such as Shravanam and loud kirtan, should also be practiced in Raganuga Bhakti. So these three principal verses, key verses, that will unlock the path very clearly. Even before Vijay Kumar had heard the in-depth explanation of these three shlokas, he asked, "What is the meaning of Kuryat Vasham Braje Sada?" Goswami. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, it means that the sadhak should reside physically in Brajamandal. In other words, in the pastime places of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna Leela Mandal. You see, it's going on to say that if he can't stay there physically, then he should do so mentally. But my Gurudev used to say, the feet will follow the heart. If your heart is there, then your feet will follow. So actually the real instruction is to reside there. One time, Bhaktivedanta Padmanabh Maharaj was speaking in Miami at a festival, and he was describing this verse about Tan Nama Rupa. And he said, if one cannot reside there physically, then one should do so mentally. And my Gurudev just said into the other microphone, no. So again he repeated it, and again my Gurudev said no. So then Padmanabh Maharaj, he looked at Gurudev, and my Gurudev said, if you can afford to come, you should come physically and stay there. This is, if we have that greed. So it's saying, if he cannot stay in Braj physically, then he should do so mentally, because the result of residing in Braj mentally is the same as residing there physically. But how can you reside mentally until you've spent some time, significant time, absorbing? The sadhak should follow in the footsteps of the particular Saki whose loving bhavs, premakik rag, has attracted him. He should reside in Braj with the abhiman of being a kunja sevaka, a maid attendant in the kunj of that particular Saki. He should constantly remember Sri Krishna and the bhav of that Saki. So we do this by following the Astakalya Lila, these eight stages of the day, starting from Nishanta Lila, Prata, etc. With this gross body, the sadhak should perform the angas of Vaidhi Bhakti, such as Shravana and Kirtan. With his subtle body, he should constantly remember the Astakalya Lila and render his assigned seva as a Siddha Vraja Gopi, according to the 11 bhavs that he has attained. So we have the gross, the subtle, and the spiritual. So it's a progression here. Try to see the distinction. Outwardly, the sadhak must maintain his life following the prescribed rules and regulations. Yes, we never transgress those rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti. That would lead to Sahajiyism completely. And internally, he should cultivate the bhavs that nourish his spiritual form, Siddhadeya. This is referencing Seva Sadhak Rupena. One who follows this procedure correctly will naturally develop detachment from anything other than Braj. It becomes so intoxicating. Braj itself, the atmosphere, the potency, just is overwhelming when one remains there for a significant time to be able to develop this taste and attraction. Vijay, please illustrate this seva more clearly. So now we're at the stage of Smarana Dasha. Goswami, the real meaning of Brajavas is to stay in a solitary place with aprakat vab. The sadhak should render seva according to the Astakali Lila while regularly chanting a fixed number of Harinam. He should regulate all the activities for bodily maintenance so that it did not become unfavorable to his bhajan. In other words, life should be molded in such a way that activities of bodily maintenance become favorable to one's bhajan. This is exclusive, Aikantika bhajan. This is the only path if we want to reach that goal. There's no half-baked measure. We are going along to the best of our adhikar, but we should know what is the goal. We should know what is our aspiration, to mold our life in such a way. Vijay Kumar contemplated this deeply and said, Prabhu, I've understood this fully. Yes, we can understand it, but then how do we go? But how can the mind be composed? Yes, the mind. Goswami, the mind automatically becomes composed as soon as one attains Raganuga Bhakti. This is because the hankering of the mind for worldly enjoyment automatically ceases when it is enlivened with the inherent loving attachment of the self, and it runs towards Braj. Loving attachment for yourself means the pure self in seva to Radha and Krishna. This is what it means, in pure seva to Radha and Krishna. Knowing that that is my swarup, that is my nature. In other words, the mind chases after mundane enjoyment only because of its affinity for it. But when this affinity is directed towards Braj, the mind becomes composed because of the absence of such attachment for worldliness. Especially if you live in Vrindavan, there isn't a lot of opportunity to engage in worldly activities, in a sense. But of course we have these mobile phones and they can take us anywhere in the universe at any moment just by a click. So we have that added austerity to put that down. And when we learn to put it down, then the true nature of Braj can embrace our hearts. Still, if you have any apprehension of obstacles, if any apprehension of obstacles remains, it is beneficial to adopt the gradual course that I have mentioned previously. Then when the mind becomes fully composed, the distractions of worldliness cannot cause any harm. So it's a process, we're in process, we're training ourselves, but we have to know the path, and knowing the path means to know the goal. The goal has to be crystal clear, the conclusion. Just like in Upadeshamrita, if we read the 11th verse and 10th verse first, then everything else makes sense because that's where it's leading to. So we have to know the goal clearly. So this is this 40th chapter, this is what it's presenting. Vijay, what is the meaning of kram, gradual cultivation? Goswami, one should maintain a fixed count of Harinam, and one should devoutly chant Harinam for a fixed period every day in solitude, absorbed in his particular bhav, and keep his mind free from mundane thought. This is what we described yesterday. Without a proper draft or drinking this holy name daily. And I said yesterday how 16 rounds is what our Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada gave the devotees in the initial stage. He wanted us all to chant a lakh, but he conceded because we were infants. Are we going to remain infants all our lives? It's up to us. It's always our choice. If we want to sober up from our material engagements, then we should take deeply this beverage. And you can still perform all your other activities that you have to, but with a much more focused and explicit execution of them, because your faculty of intelligence is woken up. You know how to how to avoid pitfalls in the material world. You don't have 20-minute phone call conversations that really aren't about much. So it's a process, it's a process. So, and it starts with this Harinam. Keep his mind free from mundane thought. Slowly and gradually one should increase the time for his sadhana, and eventually the stage will come when the mind will always be saturated with alokik chinmoy bhavs, so that no mundane thoughts can prevail over it. How wonderful to consider this place. Actually, if we want to chant more, it means one thing. It means going to bed early. If you go to bed early, you can rise early, because you can't deprive yourself of the sleep, otherwise you're just falling asleep while you're chanting. If you go to bed at a respectable, there's actually nothing much to do after 7 or 8 o'clock. The mind becomes tired and distracted. You can't study so much there. And if it's just sensual chattering and so on, that's not going to be beneficial. So if we train the mind from going to bed early, then we can do easily this sadhana. It's a training that has to take place. Vijay, for how long must one follow this practice? Goswami, one should continue to follow this practice until he has reached a state of mind that is beyond any disturbance. Vijay. How can one perform Nam Smaran? First, you should chant Nam in ulas, a mood of rejoicing. Then combine that joy with possessiveness, mamata. Radhika is mine. I am rejoicing in my savior to Radhika. There's nothing more exhilarating than this. After that, you should compound that mamata with Vishramba intimacy. Yes, then we pray for this intimacy. When you do this, Shuddha Bhav will gradually arise. Then Bhavapana Dash will appear. Initially, during the time of Smaranam, the sadhak simply imposes Bhav on his practice. However, in the stage of Bhavapana, Shuddha Bhav manifests in the heart, and this is called Prem. This indeed is the sequence for gradual development of Nishtha within the heart of the Upasaka, transcendental servant. And this practice also includes the development of Nishtha in the conception of the object of Upasya, the object of one's seva. Vijay, what is the sequence of Upasya Nishtha? Goswami, if you want to attain the fully blossomed stage of Prem, then you should accept the following instruction of Sri Das Goswami. Yadi chara avasham rajabhuvi saragam priti janur yuvadvanvam takchet paricharitam arad abilisraha swarupam shirupam saganam iha tasya grajam api spurtim prenya nityam smaranama tara tvam shrinu manaha. Manashiksha 3. Yes, Raghunath is our Prayojan Guru. He's giving us all guidance. O mind, if you cherish an ardent desire to live in Braj with Rag, and if you long to render direct loving seva, life after life to Braja Yugal in their Parakya affairs, which are free from any bondage to the rules of wedlock, then you must distinctly and constantly remember with love Sri Swarup Goswami and Sri Rup and Sri Sanatan Goswamis, along with their associates. You should accept them as your Guru Rupa Sakhis and offer them pranam. These personalities never leave. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still in sound. These personalities are all around us if we want to connect with them. They never leave. And they see one little spark of enthusiasm in this way, and they are there instantly. Instantly you will appreciate their support and nourishment. Instantly. The idea is that if one performs sadhan in the bhav of Swakya Ras, the result is Samanjasa Ras, in which the seva bhav of the divine couple is inhibited and not in a fully blossomed state. So we've discussed all of these terminologies. Samanjasa is the rati of the queens of Dwarka. Therefore you should perform bhajan, maintaining the spiritual ego, abhiman, of pure parakya ras, according to the conceptions of Sri Swarup, Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan. Even during the sadhan stage, when the bhavs are simply imposed, one should only adopt the pure parakya bhav. This is what Mahaprabhu has come specifically to give, parakya bhav. This was never there before. If the sadhak imposes the parakya bhavs, parakya rati will manifest, and parakya ras will eventually manifest from this parakya rati. This indeed is the nitya ras of the Braja Aprakat Leela. Vijay, what is the process of hearing Kram Shuddha in sequence in Astakalya Leela? Beautiful questions. Goswami, after explaining all the fascinating varieties of ras in Astakalya Leela, Sri Rupa Goswami has said, Atalatvat apratvad apto so durvighataham sprishtai param tashtena rasabdi maduro yata ujvalanilamani Gona Sambhog, Division 23. Krishna Lila is completely transcendental from all aspects. It is a sweet ocean of rasa. However, this ocean is unfathomable and has no shore. Krishna Lila is incomprehensible for the beings of this mundane world because it is extremely difficult for them to penetrate the mortal realm and have access to Shuddha Apricot Tattva, pure transcendental reality. The apricot ras is so astonishing, variegated, and all-pervading that it cannot be surpassed. Moreover, even if one has been enlivened with apricot bhav and who lives within the pure tattva explains the esoteric Krishna Lila, his description cannot be flawless or complete because description depends on words, and words are incapable of fully expressing that transcendental reality. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said this about 5 or 6 times through the Jaiva Dharma, that the mind stops at a certain place when the words become useless to describe something achintya, something so beyond. So we shouldn't be always seeking to describe these things, rather be experiencing these things. And then if we're put on the spot and it's necessary for us to actually speak these things, something of purity will manifest, something will come out. But we shouldn't be always thinking, how am I going to explain this? How am I going to... Because the mind is then working. It's working in logic and rationale mood rather than spontaneous. The apricot ras is so astonishing, variegated, and all-pervading that it cannot be surpassed. That means it's achintya, beyond words. Moreover, even when one who has been enlivened with apricot bhav and who lives within the pure tattva explains the esoteric Krishna Lila, his descriptions cannot be flawless or complete because description depends on words, and words are incapable of fully expressing that transcendental reality. What to speak of such a person when Bhagavan himself describes apricot ras? Listeners and readers who are themselves overwhelmed by mundane faults and limitations perceive even his own description as faulty. Consequently, it is certainly very difficult to dive deep in the ocean of rasa. However, when one is situated on the shore of this ocean, in a neutral state, he can describe just a drop of it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is doing this with great expertise. Vijay, then how is it possible to attain apricot ras? Goswami, Madhurya ras is unfathomable, matchless, and difficult to understand. This is the very nature of Krishna Lila. However, our beloved Krishna is unlimitedly endowed with 2 special qualities, which are the real basis of our hopes. He is Sarva Shaktiman, possessed of all potencies, and Ichamayi, possessed of his own unimpeded and independent will. Therefore, by his sweet will, he can easily make his esoteric leelas manifest in this mundane world. That also means in the mundane heart, he can make that manifest. Although they are unlimited, unfathomable, and difficult to understand. This mundane realm is extremely insignificant and petty, but still, as the supreme autocrat, he desires to bring the topmost transcendental aspects of Krishna Lila to this world. It is only by his causeless mercy that his transcendental, eternal sweet Leelas, which are saturated with rasa, apricot nitya madhurya rasamoy Lila, have manifested in this mundane world. And this is all coming through our Guru Varg. This is the current. This is where it's coming from. This is why it's so essential to take association of those who are connected with that Guru Varga from Rupa Goswami, from Bhaktivinoda Thakur coming through. Without that association, as we were saying yesterday, then nothing really genuine can transpire. Because we're trying to connect with Krishna, but if we can't connect with the current, that Krishna bestows upon those sadhaks in this world, how can we expect to connect with Krishna? It's just not logical. How is it possible for Sri Maturadham, which is apricot, transcendental to this mundane world, to manifest in this world, and how does it exist here? No argument can be applied in this matter, because it is never possible for the limited intelligence of humans or devatas to understand the activities of Bhagavan's Achintya Shakti. Brajalila in this world is the Prakat Bhav, the manifest experience of the topmost Krishna Lila, which is transcendental to this mundane realm. We have realized and attained it, so there is no cause of anxiety for us. When we read the 10th canto, for example, these are direct descriptions, beautiful descriptions of the Lord's Prakat pastimes, these nimitic Leelas that we have, Krishna's birth, etc., coming up in a few days' time. This is all nimitic, this is all temporary. This is not the Nitya Leela. But this takes us into the world. It purifies the heart. It's bringing us these higher, sweeter states of consciousness simply by hearing these pastimes. We become purified, and we develop the adhikar to hear more by hearing the 10th canto directly. Vijay, if Prakat Leela and Aprakat Leela are both the same tattva, how is it possible for the one to be superior to another? Goswami, undoubtedly both are the same. The Leela that is manifest here indeed exists in its entirety in the transcendental realm. However, from the point of view of the conditioned souls, in the initial stages of sadhana, it appears one way, and as they gradually advance, it appears in progressively elevated forms. It's progression, evolution of consciousness is actually what it is. In the stage of bhavapana, realization of this lila is completely pure. These are so beautiful. Vijay, you are eligible to hear this subject, so I have no hesitation in speaking with you. One attains the stage of bhavapana in his smarana dasha as a result of performing the appropriate sadhana for a long time. During the stage of smarana, when one becomes completely free from all the polluted moods of his mundane experience, the stage of apana, realization of one's swarup, appears. Shuddha Bhakti mercifully appears in the sadhak's heart according to the degree of appropriate practice in smarana dasha. Bhakti alone is Krishna Akashani, attractive to Krishna. So by Krishna's grace, all the dirt in the form of misconceptions is gradually removed in smaran dasha. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-26, Yata yatatma priyachayate sho mat punya gata shravana bidanaha tata tata pashyati rastu shukshmam chakshu yataiva jana samprayuktam. Just as anointing the eyes with salve gives them the power to see even subtle objects, similarly, when the jiva's heart is cleansed by the shravan and kirtan of my supremely purifying lila katha, he gains the ability to realize extremely subtle tattva, namely the truth about my swarup and leelas. It's so captivatingly exciting. When the eyes are treated with ointment, they can see much more clearly. In just the same way, a jiva can realize the aprakat swarup, transcendental nature of the manifest Krishna Lila to the extent that he is purified by contact with the aprakat vastu, the transcendental reality, through shravan, kirtan, smarana, and Krishna Lila Katha. These are all powerful, powerful processes to connect the consciousness with the highest conceivable state of consciousness. We know, even scientists will say, that we only use a small portion of our brain. What's in the rest of it can be accessed through mantra. through diligent practice, through careful sadhana, all of that can be opened, and then the eyes will see, the eyes of love. It is said in Brahma Samhita 538, Premanjana charita bhakti vilochanena shanta sadaiva hridayeshu valokayanti yam shyama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I perform bhajan of the primeval Purush, Sri Govinda, who is Shyamasundara Krishna. His form has inconceivably unique qualities, and his Shuddha Bhaktas perpetually see him in their hearts with the eye of devotion, anointed with the salve of love. This will happen through practice and the potency of Nam coming into the heart and consciousness. At the stage of Bhavapana, Swarup Siddhi, the faculty of transcendental vision appears, and at that time the sadhak can have darshan of his Sakhi, and also Yuteshwari Srimati Radhika. Even after having darshan of Gokulanath Sri Krishna, the sadhak's realization is not steady at all times until he achieves the stage of Sampati Dash, Vastu Siddhi. Vastu Siddhi is when we actually leave this body altogether, in which his gross and subtle bodies are destroyed. That's Vastu Siddhi. Swarup Siddhi is prior to that. However, the secondary result of Sampati Dash, the stage in which Krishna's mercy is fully manifested, is that the connection of the jiva with this mundane world is completely cut off. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're like a yogi sitting on top of a hill and you're having nothing to do with the material energy. It means you have zero attachment to anything in this world whatsoever. Even zero attachment to your body. You know that the body is just material and will drop at any moment. But you've purified any smell of material attachment in this world. And you continue on with your regular activities and so on, but with utter detachment, with complete detachment. And Bhagavatam speaks about this detachment all the way through. So much is reference to detachment we hear. However, the second result of Sampati Dash, the stage in which Krishna's mercy is fully manifested, is that the connection of the jiva with this mundane world is completely cut off. Bhavapana Dasha is called Swarup Siddhi, and in Samapata Dasha one attains Vastu Siddhi. Vijay. How does one experience Krishna's Nam, Guna, Rupa, Lila, and Dham at the time of Vastu Siddhi? Goswami. I cannot answer this question. I will only be able to see them and speak about them when I attain Vastu Siddhi, because he's still in the body. He's in Swarup Siddhi. And you will only be able to understand and realize these things when you attain Sampati Dash. At that time, there will be no further need to make you understand the various aspects of Krishna Lila. You will perceive it directly, so you will have no more need for further inquiry. Besides, it is useless for the bhakta to express what he sees in his Swarup Siddhi, that is, in the Bhavapana Dash, because none of his hearers will be able to realize what he is saying. It should not be shared, it should not be spoken of. That's not the purpose of it. You see, we get conditioned by our idea for preaching. If that's all we hear about, where is going to be the internal development of bhajan? The preaching will happen automatically. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada said the preaching is the belching of the bhajan. When we do our bhajan, then simply everything you say will be preaching. You don't have to actually enunciate the words or etc. Just by your being, the purity of your realized soul will affect people sufficiently. There's no need for words or explanation. It's like a self-manifesting, like Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Wherever he went, he could be talking about the most mundane thing, but he would be exuding such potency. My Gurudev was the same. Srila Rupa Goswami has described the symptoms of Swarup-siddha Mahapurushas as follows. Jane chej jata bhavapi vaigunyam iva drishyate, karya tatapi nushya na shuya karataha sarvataiva saha. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.359. You may see some apparent imperfection or misconduct in the external behavior of bhaktas who have attained the stage of bhav. Even so, it is essential not to be envious of them by attributing faults to them, because they have become completely detached from everything other than Krishna, and therefore they are fully successful in every respect. So if we see someone who is completely detached, he has no more agenda in this world, so he might transgress some type of social etiquette because he's not actually attached to social etiquette. So he should never be criticized in any way. Therefore, they are fully successful in every respect. Danyasyam nava prema yasyon milati chetasi antarvani bir api asya mudra shushtu sudurgama. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.4.17. This prema only appears in the hearts of those who are very fortunate. Even those who are learned in Shastra find it very difficult to comprehend the activities and movements of those in whom the new sprout of prema has appeared. Vijay. If that is so, why are there attempts in Sri Brahma Samhita and other Shastras to give a description of Golok? Good, beautiful questions. Goswami, when great sadhus are situated in their Swarup city, and when Brahma and other devatas have been mercifully granted a vision of Sri Krishna's transcendental pastimes, they have tried to glorify such pastimes through their stavas and stutis, according to their respective visions. However, such descriptions are only limited because this mundane realm has no proper words to express the aprakat bhavs. So we shouldn't try excessively to express these things, but realize these things, relish these things, and serve these things internally. It's an internal path. This is the huge turnaround, so to speak. If we've been coming through the school of our training, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My Gurudev always told me he's come to tell us that he's not. So like this, everything has to evolve to come to this point. The bhaktas, however, have no need for all these descriptions. Yes, because they're seeing it internally. It is recommended that they should perform bhajan by taking support of the prakat lila that Sri Krishna has very kindly manifested in this world, and they will accomplish all perfection. By this alone, those who perform such bhajan in Gokul with nishta will very soon receive a spurti of Golok in their hearts. All the Divya Lila of Gokul are also eternally existent in Goloka. For in Tattva there is no distinction between them. Those with material vision perceive phenomena and the activities in Gokul as mundane or illusory. When he's saying Gokul here, it's referencing the Boma Vrindavan in this world, as mundane or illusory. But such perception ceases to exist at the time of Swarup Siddhi. One should continue to perform bhajan and be satisfied with whatever realization of the transcendental reality is bestowed upon him according to his adhikar. You can't push it. You can't crash the gates of heaven. You can't push, because the soul can't be pushed. We're waiting to come to that. The stage of asakti is when there's no, like ruchi, there's some awareness of the imposition we're placing on the senses, but in the stage of asakti, it's just a natural attraction for Krishna. It's naturally spontaneous. What to speak of when we come into these stages, bhav, higher than bhav, these stages we're discussing now. There's no imposition for the soul. I'll read that again because it's really important. One should continue to perform bhajan and be satisfied with whatever realization of the transcendental reality is bestowed upon him according to his adhikar. This is really Sri Krishna's instruction. If we sincerely adhere to his instructions, in due course of time, he will surely bestow on us his causeless mercy, through which we can have the full vision of his Divya Leela. Yes, we're waiting for this mercy. Our path, we've said so many times, is Avaroha Panta, where the descending path, it's coming down, it's coming down. We simply have to do the chesta, we have to do the work, we have to do the sadhan, we have to make that effort initially, and then it will come spontaneously by itself, ultimately. This is what it's saying. But we have to do the effort to begin with. It's like in any type of relationship, for example, we make an effort and then we wait for the reciprocation. So it's in both ways, it's the same. Now Vijay Kumar became completely free from doubt in every respect. He fully awoke to his innate disposition and skillfully dovetailed all the Ekadash bhavs in Krishna Lila. He seated himself in his bhajan kutia on the seashore in Puri, became completely composed, and spent his entire time relishing Prem Seva. During this time, Brajanath's mother left this world, and Brajanath left for his native place along with his grandmother. Sakya Prem had arisen in his unalloyed heart, and thus he resided in Navadvip Dham in the association of sincere Vaishnavas, and performed his bhajan blissfully on the bank of the Bhagavati Ganga. Vijay Kumar, however, gave up his household dress and accepted the kopin and bahirvash of the renunciant. He maintained his life by Madhukari, begging Sri Mahaprasad while remaining constantly absorbed in bhajan. Throughout all the 8 praharas of the day and night, he took only a little rest during the time of Sri Sri Radha Krishna's transcendental sleep. After they ate, he would honor prasad, and when they were awake, he would render appropriate seva. His Harinam Mala was in his hands at all times. Sometimes he would dance, and sometimes he wept loudly. At other times, while gazing at the waves and the sea, he would laugh. Who but Vijay himself could understand the movements of his bhajan and the transcendental bhav of his heart? Outwardly, his name became Nimai Das Babaji. He never indulged in speaking or hearing worldly talk. He was the very embodiment of humility. His character was spotless, and his determination in bhajan was unwavering. If anybody offered him Mahaprasad or Kopin Bahirvesh, he accepted only the very least that he needed and not more. While he was chanting Harinam, tears constantly glided down his cheeks. His throat became choked, and the hairs of his body stood erect. Within a short span of time, he attained perfection in his bhajan, and Sri Krishna most graciously bestowed upon him the adhikar to render seva in his apricot leela. Like Brahma Haridas Thakur, his bhajan deha, the body with which he performed bhajan, was buried under the sands of the beach at Puri. So now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written a beautiful concluding thing. I think we've got time to read it today. Bolo Bhagavan Sri Krishna Chandra Ki Jai. Guru Krishna Vaishnavara Kripa Bale Dari Bhakti Vinodadhina Bahu Yatna Kari. After striving many days and carrying upon his head the Kripa Shakti of Sri Guru Krishna and the Vaishnavas, this lowly Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Virachila Jaiva Dharma Gaudiya Pasaya Sampurna Hoile Granta Magiya Purnimaya, has composed Jaiva Dharma according to the pure conceptions of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. This book was fully complete on Magh Purnima, the full moon day of the month of Magh. Chaitanya da Chari Sata Dasha Navadvip Gautram Surabhi Kunje Janavi Samipe. In the year 410 of the Chaitanya era, 1896, at Surabhi Kunj in Godrum, near the sacred river Janavi in Navadvip Mandal, Shri Kali Pavana Gora Padayanra Asha Eganta Padun Tani Kariya Vishvasha Those who desire the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Gauranga, the purifier of the age of Kali, should read this book with faith. Gauranga Janhara na Janmile Shraddha Lesh Eganta Padite Tanra Shapata Vishesh. However, I take an oath that someone who has not developed even a trace of Shraddha for Gauranga Dev should not read this book. Shuksha Muktivada Krishna Kabu Nahi Pai Shraddhan Vaned Vraje Lila Shuddha Rupe Bhai. For the dry Muktivads can never attain the shelter of Sri Krishna, but one who is endowed with spiritual Shraddha will gradually realize the full esoteric aspects of Vraja Lila. How incredibly astonishing. So beautiful. So incredible. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. We can see that he's given his entire heart, consciousness, mind, soul, everything into producing this remarkable granta for us. And the intelligent sadhak will take the greatest advantage of this absolute jewel that he has bestowed upon us at this particular time. And it's so simple for us to do because we have the Maha Mantra. We have the Maha Mantra that was in the center of this book. We talked yesterday. And with the potency of that Maha Mantra, it will purify our misconceptions and darkness very quickly. They will run away like the lion roaring, and all the lesser animals to run away. This is the potency of the Maha Mantra. So we have the weapon, so to speak, to chase the negativity and misconceptions away. And that's the negative aspect, the Tatashta Lakshan, but the Swarup Lakshan, the positive side, is that it will attract Krishna, Sri Krishna Akashani Chasa. He will become attracted. When he is attracted, his Kripa, Avaroha Panta, will descend into the heart. And then we will have the ability, the adhikar, to wake up to these remarkable conceptions all the way through. So we've been right the way through everything from the Sambandha, the Abhideya, and the Prayojan. We haven't, Bhaktivinoda Thakur hasn't left a single idea or tattva loose or out. Every single thing, every nut and bolt, so to speak, is here in one small. When we were publishing this, my Gurudev wanted a big book, but I begged him, please make a small book because devotees travel all the time and we can make it light, so like on Bible paper. So we made it like small enough, practically put in a big pocket. So never be without our Jaiva Dharma. Always have it ready and at hand, and have these conceptions regularly floating through our minds, especially what we've read today, this Shravan Dasha, Varna Dasha, Smarna Dasha, Bhavapana Dasha, and Sampati Dasha. These are the 5 final stages of our evolution of consciousness, which will bring us to the lotus feet of this Nitya Prem Seva to Sri Radharani in the kunjas of Sri Vrindavan. Gaur Premanande, Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.